Okay, there we go. Welcome to Quarkus Insights number. Oh, I forgot what number we're in. 149. Um, and the first new year, the first episode in 2024. And what's better to start 2024 about talk about some testing. So that's what we're here for today. We have Christoph and Holly. And but before we go into the main program, there's just a few updates that happened either over the break or close to the break. And one is first, if you've been using the documentation in Quarkus, Johan and Andy and a few others, I think Sandra and others, we've been like the search is a bit tricky here. It was always like when you search, it was just on keyword. But now, even though it says filled by keyword, it's actually a real search. So if you want to look at JBang, we actually use Elastic Hibernate Search and Elasticsearch behind the scenes to order these things. And you can see it highlights the areas where it's there. And if you search for something more like JWC, Postgres, it will actually give you the ones that has the closest in a certain order. And we just put it live this morning, I think. So it should be easier now to find stuff. But do let us know. We can tweak and order this stuff, and we'll actually probably do an insights of a blog about what we did around this stuff. But do try it out. It's just on Quarkus.io in the guides. There's now a hopefully more intelligent search.
Yeah, super hot off the press.
Yes.
Eating our own dog food search
Exactly.
using the latest Hibernate features.
Yeah, and and it was actually I think it's done less than a few. I'm not gonna say days, but yeah, the functionality was done in days, but what took longest was to get the UI in place, I think.
Yeah, there's a really sophisticated integration between the front end and the back end, and I think we did about 3 different designs before settling on one.
Yeah, but the back end is fairly simple but also scalable, and it's right. Yeah, anyway, we will go into it later. But the nice thing is, even if it for some reason fails, it will fall back to the old one, which was like client-side searching. So everyone should be fine. But do let us know how it goes. And then the other thing that happens, we have newsletters and the release, but we also gave an update on 37389. Go with that one. And it keeps popping up. Stop. So we have LTS for Quarkus. So the 3.2 LTS is long-term support. Currently 3.2 is the LTS. The next LTS will be 3.8. But this time, based on the experience from the last 3 years, where we also kind of did stabilization kind of thing, we are doing this. We declared 3.7 as the base for the LTS. So that means that 3.7 CR1 is coming out, I think, this week, or at least being prepared this week. Is where we ask everyone to do all dependency updates and that kind of thing that tend to break people when we don't want them to get them in early. And then once that release is done, we will then prepare a 3.8, which will be the actual LTS. And then main will be 3.9. But anyway, long story short, the preparedness for the LTS will be, instead of 1 month, it's going to be 2 months. And main will skip ahead and can pick up new features a bit faster. But anyway, you can go to the blog and release all the details. It's a little bit different than before, but should all hopefully make sense in the blog. So yeah. Anyway, that was not the boring part, but the news part. Yes, so I'm trying to get to the button that screens off. So cool. Anyway, back to Christoph. So Christoph, who are you and why are you here?
Hey, yeah, thanks for having me. My name is Christoph. I'm working at Red Hat as a software engineer, mainly on the projects Apache Camel and Camel K, so focusing on how to run Camel on Kubernetes. But I'm here today to talk about something completely different, because another passion of mine is automated testing. And I believe it was last year in one of the DevOpses that we realized that the framework that I'm developing, like for the last 10 years or so, could be a great fit also for Quarkus applications. And this is what I'm going to show you today. So I have a little Quarkus application, and I'm going to write some integration tests with its framework, which is called Citrus. It's an open source framework. And we will see how Citrus can help you to actually verify your applications.
I remember the moment. This was like DevOps in November last year, and we had the Red Hat has a booth, as a session. We had these like small demo session, what they call them, and you stood up there and you were talking about this Citrus, and I was like, wait, what is this doing? And it's like, this is all the kind of testing that we haven't covered yet, or even stuff we do already and more. And I was like, oh, that sounds like a new cool thing. And then you explained to me, oh, we've been doing this for like many years. Like, oh, this probably should have like been done earlier. But yeah, so that's why we're here, to listen and learn and see if and the good thing is it doesn't require like us changing anything. It fits in, but you'll get into that, I'm sure. So.
And you're right, Max. This is a perfect one for the first episode after the new year. Because if your New Year's resolution is to have better quality and write more tests,
this is one. Yes, you can get. You want to do better stuff for So now, Christoph,
So
go ahead and share a screen, and I'll.
Yeah.
There we go. Awesome. And just before you start, just for those who listen in, you can always ask questions and stuff in the chat or whatever platform you're on, and then we will kind of fit the questions into the conversation. So just go ahead.
So this is the homepage of Citrus, so that you have a picture of what I'm talking about. And actually here you can see on the very first slide, there's also Quarkus mentioned as a potential scenario for testing. And I'm doing today a demo, and this is the demo setup. It's using a Quarkus application. This is the food market application. And this food market application is an event-driven application. So it listens on Kafka topics. On the one hand, we have a bookings topic where users can add bookings of certain products, and they give an amount and a price. And we have suppliers that also add their supplies into the system over Kafka events. And the suppliers also state a product and an amount and a price. And once a booking and a supply actually matches, then the Quarkus application will actually save this to the database, and it will create some booking completed events and some shipping events also on a Kafka topic. And also this provides a REST API, so you can call the same create, update, delete operations over REST. And it will also then later on send out some emails and stuff. So we will have some different messaging transports involved. And we all want to test this incoming and outcoming, or inbound and outbound interfaces with Citrus. So Citrus is there to connect to Kafka, send in some events, to receive some events, to validate the outcome. It is there to actually call an HTTP service like the food market API. And it is also there to receive this email that is sent out, verify the email content. And we can do this all with the same framework. So Citrus has really focused on the messaging transports, various messaging transports, and provide the ability to simulate clients, servers, in order to have this all in an automated integration test. So integration test means that the application is really running. And it is really connected to a database, and it's also really connected to a Kafka broker. On my local host, we can use the dev services from Quarkus, which automatically start up the test containers for Postgres and for the Kafka broker, and then Citrus just connects to these and sends in some events and verifies the events on the outcome.
So Christoph, just to give context, so in Quarkus, from early days we had testing as a key part, but we were focused mainly on the HTTP part, the get, push, post, delete, and we used rest assured. Am I wrong in saying that like Citrus is like rest assured, but for anything?
Yeah. Yeah, you can say it like that. I'm not here to say that Citrus you should use Citrus instead of rest assured or whatever. So everything there is like for a reason, and you can do HTTP calls with Citrus. You can also do this with rest assured, but for other kind of messaging transports like Kafka, JMS, HTTP, mail, and stuff, there might be some lack of tooling out there, and this is also covered by Citrus.
Well, I'm saying like the use case is in your test phase, you can use Citrus to do these kind of testing in a nice way, and it's not limited just to HTTP or one.
Exactly.
Got
and
it.
You can also combine these things. Yeah, if you want to keep using rest assured for your HTTP based communication and just use Citrus for like the Kafka communication, you can do so. That's totally fair. And so let's maybe close this one, because now we should have the overview. Maybe let's just start the application in Quarkus dev mode.
Oh, Christopher, before you go on, we've got you haven't even demoed it yet, and we've got someone who's keen to start using it. So the question is what the minimum version of Quarkus is.
The minimum, there's no minimum version of Quarkus, as I
guess extension is Quarkus 3.2 or something like that.
Yeah. So now I understand better. Like I created this Quarkus extension for Citrus so that you are able to run Citrus within Quarkus tests with the 3.2. But if you are using an earlier version of Quarkus, then you can also just use Citrus totally separately from your Quarkus, like doing a separate Maven module that holds the Quarkus tests. And as we are dealing with messaging here and we are sending messages over HTTP or over Kafka, you can also totally decouple your testing with the system under test, which is Quarkus in this case. So it doesn't have to be everything glued together into a single module. You can also separate these, and then you can test your Quarkus applications prior to Quarkus 3 also with this. Because we are doing integration tests and just using the interfaces that the Quarkus application is exposing.
Cool.
So this has started. So then let's have a look into the very nice UI. So this is like I said, we have bookings and we have supplies, and let's just Max, what product do you want to have? We have a lot of fruits.
I'm a mango.
You have mango. So let's maybe 10, and the price, and just saves it. And the thing is, if we have a supply, like Christoph is the supplier, and also select the mango, give it like maybe also another amount, and save it, and then you see that your booking has been completed because the price was matching and the amount was matching, and now the supply has only 2 left because you sold 10 to Max. So this is what the whole application is doing. Incoming bookings and incoming supplies get matched to certain criteria, and when this match, then we want to receive this booking completed events and so on. So let's go back and let's stop this, and now let's start to write a first Citrus test. So I've prepared this very basic class you can use with this Quarkus extension for Citrus, you can use the normal Quarkus test annotation, and you can write a very normal JUnit Jupyter test. So let's say should match bookings and supplies. And what Max already mentioned is that with this Quarkus test extension, I can just start this, and it will automatically start a Postgres database and a Kafka message broker for me, because it realizes that I'm using it, and it uses test containers for local testing. So just with this Quarkus test annotation, you get this out of the box, because this is the dev services that if you run your tests, and you can have your infrastructure already set up. So the only thing that we now need to do is to actually send a message to the Kafka eventing. And you can enable Citrus with another annotation. This is the Citrus support annotation. And this is actually what I have been writing last year. It's a Quarkus extension that takes place in the Quarkus testing lifecycle. And this extension just hooks in and gives you some support in your class. So with this Citrus support, I can now add a Citrus resource, and this is the test case runner. Let's call it T, and this is the entrance to the domain-specific language that Citrus supports. So whenever you need to send out a message, or you need to do some query to the database, and you want to use Citrus, then you can use this test case runner to entrance the domain-specific language. So in our test, what we need to do is we want to create a booking. That's the first one. And we want to create a supply. That's the second step. And then we want to verify the booking completed event. And then we want to verify the shipping event also. So these are the basic main steps that we need to actually implement. And let's jump into creating a booking. And this is then using this test case runner. It uses Gherkin syntax with given, when, then. You can also say t.run. And as a method argument, you give so-called test actions that Citrus provides to send and receive data. So I stick with the given, when, then syntax. So I say t.when. And I need to send the data. So I use send as a test action. And this uses an endpoint. And this endpoint can be anything that Citrus supports. Right now, we want to send it to Kafka. So we say Kafka and give the topic name. And then we also need a message. And the body is then the JSON that represents the booking. So let me just give a client. The client is Max, and we need a product. Maybe do it a little bit better here. So we need a product. And this is the most dangerous part of the demo, because I'm sure I'm screwing up these things here. Name. We wanted to have mango. And we need an amount, like 10, and a price. Well, price. And we also need a so-called shipping address. And this is wherever Max is living, like Food Boulevard, something like that. So this is the pure JSON as a JSON string, and it should really send out the message using the Kafka support in Citrus and send it to this bookings topic. And now, so that we don't see me like typing things, I'm a little bit cheating for creating the supply. It's pretty much the same, because right now we just want to do the very same thing just for a supply. So let me just copy this. And now we are using supplies. It doesn't have a shipping address, just has this. And let me just use this also for the completed event. And this time we don't want to send messages, we want to receive.
You have a different name
messages.
for the client, right?
Yeah, a different name for the Kafka connection.
No, for the client. Here it's Max buying and selling. If you want to mimic the first one.
Yeah, okay, yeah. So this is Christoph, yeah. But doesn't really matter, but okay, yeah. But the product should be the same, and the amount and the price should match. Okay, thanks. So this is the booking event and the booking complete event, and now we want to receive data. And this syntax is pretty much the same. We receive now from the endpoint, which is called completed. This is the topic, and now we give an expected message payload. So the event that is sent to this is received by Citrus, and now we give a template of a JSON structure that Citrus should verify. And when the actual message comes in and we have this template, then Citrus is able to compare this, and Citrus has a very, very powerful validation mechanism for JSON, for XML, for plain text, and all that stuff. So let me again maybe cheat a bit, because it takes too much time to actually see me doing all that stuff. For receiving, I also add some timeout properties. Like I wait for 10 seconds and I use a consumer group, which is good, because if I always use the same consumer group within Citrus for different topics, then I might get into trouble. So let's use a consumer group for this completed topic. And of course, we need some data in here. Let me just copy that and cheat a little bit. So this is now checking that the status is completed, and we don't have Kiwi, but we have Mango. And the client is Max. So this is then the verification of the event. And last but not least, we need also the shipping event. And let me also just go over here and cheat a bit. So this is also using Kafka with shipping, and then again, have to adjust this. Now this was, this is the shipping, it also goes to Max. And here we need the correct shipping address. What did I use? This one. And no worries, we will gradually in this demo just improve this test step by step. So this is just a very simple thing now, like prototyping your test, and it actually should run. So hopefully, if I don't mess up my JSON, it should send out this booking Kafka message. It should send out the supply that matches, and then it verifies the booking completed event. And now I screwed up, as I said, unexpected character.
So what you're doing here is black box texting, right? Testing the
So
side, right?
I knew that I screw up some JSON in here.
Friends don't let friends write JSON live on screen.
So what do we have? Does it tell me something? Unexpected character. Yeah, I definitely forgot to have a closing quote somewhere. This looks okay. Yeah, this one is not. This okay. This one is missing a comma. I'm quite good at JSON parsing. So this is,
I guess you've done this a few times before.
yeah, I always screw up these things. So let's try again and see if the JSON stuff is working okay. And actually, this leads me also to the first improvement of the test.
Yeah. So just so I just want to show, so what you're doing here, you're actually running a separate, like the Quarkus app is running one place, and then you're running tests that are, well, not separate. It could run it completely separate. Like this is literally
it could, yeah, it could, yeah.
Yeah.
So I screwed up a second comma. Yeah, it could be totally decoupled. It could also run on Kubernetes or stuff. It's just the connectivity to your endpoints. At this point, we expose the Kafka topic. Yeah, and I'm positive. No, we have a green test. Yeah, great. So, and this brings me to the first, things that we need to improve, because right now we are using all this JSON stuff as a JSON string, and it's totally fine. But if you're a person like me, you should definitely use the domain model objects. Yeah, and we have access to the domain model objects. So let's just use a product, and let's do this with the domain model objects. It's way better to do it like this. And let's create a booking over here. And this is the client max, and it uses the product, and it uses the amount and the price. And I also had a little test helper that gives me a shipping address. Yeah.
It's exactly like I said, friends don't let friends write JSON.
Yeah. So let's use this in the test method. And instead of using this as a JSON string in here, you can also load this from an external resource, like having a JSON file in your project and load this. But it's pretty much the same. It's better to actually marshal this body and to use the JSON support in Citrus that enables you to marshal this. And for this to happen, we need a mapper. And this mapper, with the Quarkus testing support, we can also inject this. Let's inject the mapper. Okay. So same for supply. Supply. We need this. Just can copy this one to be sure to match the amount and so on. And let's do this for the supply too. And let's get rid of this and say, let's marshal the supply. And this is what I said is the domain-specific language of Citrus, because all these things in here are test actions that Citrus provides, and you can do a lot of other stuff too. And
is that Marshall using in case of Quarkus? Is that using Quarkus? Whatever you're using Quarkus, or is specific?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's the actual mapper that is also used by the application, by your Quarkus application.
Okay, sorry.
So it's injected automatically. And so for the booking, let me just cheat a bit.
Oh, before you go on, Christoph, we've got another question as well about Cucumber.
Yeah.
And I've been trying to use Quarkus Cucumber with Quarkus Citrus. Is that possible? So I guess there's sort of two parts to that. One is Citrus and Cucumber, and then the second part is the Quarkus extensions for each of those and whether they play nicely.
Yeah, so great question. Citrus and Cucumber are matching totally fine. And actually, there's a whole sub-project of Citrus. It's called Yax. And Yax is doing whatever Citrus is providing and puts it into the Cucumber behavior-driven development context. So you can write your feature files in Cucumber and use predefined steps for actually sending out data to Kafka, HTTP, and so on. So if you remind me later on, I can also show you a bit of how this would look like with the predefined steps of Yax, which is a sub-project of Citrus. In the background, Yax uses Citrus to send out the data, and Yax is doing all the heavy lifting of creating these steps. And then you can just say, when I send event to Kafka, and then I'm doing this in a Cucumber way of defining the behavior-driven development tests, writing these feature files. So you don't necessarily need to write Java code anymore. You just use these feature files then. And this should also go good with the Quarkus Cucumber extension, because both Citrus and Quarkus are using Cucumber underneath and just execute the tests. So I'm halfway through with this little improvement of using now the domain model objects. Last one is using here. Marshall, I need the shipping event. Oh, one. So let's create the shipping event. I have it prepared already, so I don't mess up. So this then also uses the booking shipping address and so on. So yeah, good. Another thing that I want to improve is also this here. So this is great for prototyping, because you just use this string and then Citrus parses the string and creates your endpoints and the configuration. But remember, imagine you have multiple tests and all these tests are using these strings, and you want to change the topic name or something like that, then you have to adjust all the tests. So if you write multiple tests, it's a good thing to actually use a member or a central configuration for that. So let's improve that too. Let's start with the booking, and let's say Kafka. This is also provided by Citrus. It's the endpoint builder domain-specific language. We want to do it asynchronous, and we give this a topic name, bookings, and say build. And actually, we can also just use a new member variable here, which is a Kafka endpoint from Citrus. And let's use the same for supplies. Yeah, connecting here. And for the completed, I also just copy this. So I think you get the idea, right?
Yep.
So this one, and also for shipping. And now we also set this all these settings like a timeout and consumer group, and Kafka also provides a lot of other interesting stuff: auto commits, offset, reset, and such stuff. Key deserializers and all these things. For this demo, we don't need it, but you should get the idea that we now are not using this string anymore, but we are using like the Kafka endpoint. This should be completed, and this should be supply. Good. So let's do a sanity check if this is still working. I did this too. Yeah. So let's rerun the test. Whoop. And see if this is still green. And also, maybe I forgot to also show you a failing test. we've seen some failing tests. Now, no, what I'm talking about, unable to detect object mapper. Why is it not found? 0 references. That happened to me the first time. Object mapper. Why is it? A bit surprised. Should be injecting it. So maybe another thing not happening. And that's a typical thing for developers. If you can't believe it, just rerun it to see if it's really a problem. I have never seen this before, that the object mapper is not able to be injected.
Oh, it's demo time. First
Yeah.
time. It's a new year, so this worked in 2023. But,
Yeah. Maybe I used the wrong inject. Did I use the proper inject? Jakarta inject. Did I use something different? Jakarta inject.
Didn't know. But you ran it before, didn't you?
Yeah. So if this is not working, then I totally can't explain. But this brings me to the next improvement, which also maybe should solve this one, because instead of injecting this object mapper, we can also externalize this whole configuration into a configuration class. So right now we have this as a class member. It's okay for this test, but maybe you have multiple tests and you want to externalize this or to centralize this in a so-called configuration class.
I think this is a great example of failing forward.
Yeah, I planned all this. Yeah. So I have an endpoint config class, and I'm annotating the whole class with this Citrus configuration. And now in here, you can see I can have multiple beans being created by Citrus, and Citrus is then able to do some dependency injection and so on. So it's a very lightweight thing of CDI and so on. But now we can have multiple tests, use this configuration, and every test is then loading the configuration from this endpoint class. And somewhere in there, I also have an object mapper. I create my own one. And let me see here, this is the mapper. I create my own JSON mapper. So this would definitely fix, I guess, the inject, because right now I can just remove the mapper again and just use this. Now I know I screwed up badly. Just revert everything. I screwed up because I was not using the mapper. Okay, 5 minutes back or so. Yeah, we're still using the inject of the mapper, but I just need to use it when marshalling it. Yeah, so I need here. I used it in the create booting. I already used it, and in the supply, but I didn't use it here. So I need to give the mapper in here and in here. And now I'm very positive that this test is green. So yeah, as 90% of all time, the problem sits in front of the computer.
Would it make sense for the extension to have a point where Quarkus injects the mapper, or is that actually not that valuable, because most cases, like you just showed in the configuration, people would have a custom mapper that would have more complex behavior?
Yeah, I think it depends. I use the custom mapper to do also some pretty printing stuff and some stuff that I wanted to have. But yeah, I think both are totally valid. to create your own mapper or to inject the mapper that you are also using in your application. And it's, as you see, it's working. I screwed up. Okay, so let me just now go a bit further, and as we are running also out of time, I had to speed up a bit. So I was going to do this with the Citrus configuration class and load everything from this class, endpoint config.class. And then we can just skip everything in here and let's use the Citrus endpoint annotation, because this will do the dependency injection. Then it loads the configuration from this class, and now we can just use this. I think there are other ways too for you to do the dependency injection. This is the one provided by Citrus. I think you can also do other things to actually have your configuration centralized somewhere. So this is just a thing to do. So now we don't even have the topic name in here because it's all done in the configuration. Okay, so let me speed up a bit, and let's now, right now we have only used Kafka, which is great, but Citrus is also able to do some other stuff. For instance, if you have this booking completed, then the application sends out a booking completed email to some user, or actually to the booking client, and say, hey, your booking is completed. And I want to now receive this email in this test and verify the email content. So for Citrus, there's a mail server component, and we can just also inject this because I've prepared this in the configuration. Let me just show you it, and oh, no, not this one. We go in here and say mail server. Yeah, here it is. And this is also then using mail server component. It gives support. It allows some users, some email addresses and so on. And it auto accepts every incoming email, and then the test should only verify the content of the email. So now that I've deleted the mapper, I need to just use the mapper from the central configuration. I don't need to use it. Okay, so now I added this mail server component, and in this step in here, before we actually, or maybe after we receive this booking completed event, then we should also verify the mail, the completed mail. And this is a new step in our test. And for this, I create this, and for simplicity and for time-consuming reasons, I just copy over this, what I have prepared, because it's only then using this send and receive, and it requires the booking. And what is here doing? It is doing a receive on the endpoint. The endpoint is the mail server, and it defines an expected mail message, because this is a mail request sent out by Quarkus. And it uses some email from, to, subject, and some body. And it says, hey, client, your booking has been completed. And it uses the client from the booking, and it uses the product name. And then we send back a positive or a negative response. And this is a very important aspect. The mail server in Citrus is able to also simulate you some errors, like a connectivity error or some error that the user couldn't be authenticated and something. So I'm right now here, I'm sending out a positive response back to the test, back to the application. But in this step in here, I can also simulate any error that is available on a mail component and on a mail communication.
Is the DSL, and I guess also the sort of the backing server, is that pluggable? Like if instead of using mail and Kafka, I want to use Pulsar, or I don't know if there is Pulsar support, but instead of Pulsar, I want to use FlibityGip, which you haven't implemented FlibityGip support. So what do we do?
Yeah, so for all this stuff that is not available in Citrus, you can use Camel, because Camel and Citrus also play good together. There's a Camel component in Citrus where you can use any Camel component that is out there, and there are 300 plus components also for Pulsar, to actually send out data with Pulsar or receive data with Pulsar. And then you can just hook these two together, like saying, oh no, there's no endpoint implementation in Citrus, so no, you can use the Camel one. And the syntax is the same. They say then receive, and you give the endpoint, which is a Camel endpoint. It uses a Camel endpoint URI and so on. Okay, so let me just check a bit on if I have everything for this mail communication. I guess I'm good.
So you just want to make sure that when you did the email thing, it was Citrus sending the email, not Quarkus, right?
It's Quarkus sending the email, because Quarkus is having I can show you actually in here. We have this mail service. It uses the reactive mailer from Quarkus.
Got it.
And it sends out this mail with this, hey, your booking has been completed. And actually, this is done when everything is complete. So here we complete the booking, and then at the very end, this is actually fire forget in Quarkus. So it sends out the email and doesn't care.
And then
the response.
So Citrus, the extension, has automatically wired in the mail config to its own server, or how does it work?
It's in the application properties from Quarkus. Like in here, you have this mailer, and you say the Quarkus mailer uses the local host, and this is the port where Citrus actually starts up the mail server.
Okay. So you have to put this. Okay, so Citrus has its own thing, and then you manually point a dev mode to the. Okay, so you.
Yeah, and this is also interesting. By default, in a test environment, the Citrus, the Quarkus mailer uses a mock that only prints the message content to the console, because you don't actually have a mail component available until now that you have Citrus that can actually really receive the email. So the real communication is going over the wire, and the connection is done.
Because I was wondering if Citrus could do that automatically, because I know there was someone who made a mailing mocker, like I forgot what it was called. But that was more a dedicated mail testing thing. But I think it doesn't matter. But that's improvement we can look at. Okay, but just so I understand it, so Citrus comes with its own thing that a Quarkus developer have to go into application property to say, use this thing. There's no automatically wiring of that, basically. Yeah.
So we have another failing test, but the good thing is I know why. We haven't received a mail within 5 seconds, and this is the timeout of the mail server. It should receive when you say here receive, it waits for 5 seconds for the email to be there, unless it will throw a timeout exception. But I know why the email is not sent out. I kind of had a little hook in there. So you have to do an amount greater than 100 to actually that mail is sent out. So this is something that I put into the demo to not every time do the email connection. So if the amount is greater equal 100, it should send out the email. So another time I screwed up.
By the way, just I talked about the mail thing, and Holly was so kind to actually find the thing. There's a Quarkus mail pit thing, but I just look in the docs. It does the exact same thing. It's a dedicated dev service, and then you have to override the properties, and then it's there. So, but I got cheated because it says 0 config, which is not true. There's 3 properties you have to set, but it's the same thing. So
Yeah, but it's a good, we can have a look, and maybe Citrus can do this the same way, so that you don't have to.
I'm saying you are doing the same way now.
Okay.
I thought I thought it was a zero config. It's not. It's a config that you showed. So
Yeah.
that works.
So now actually the test is using Kafka, and it also uses this verification of the email, and I can just prove it to you, because when I expect a hi instead of a hey in here, and maybe then we can also see a failing test on purpose. Just to show you that the real communication is really done out of this testing, so that the email is sent out and Citrus is verifying the email content. So now I'm having this failing test on purpose, and it says values not equal for saying high expected high max, and actually it was hey max. So let's fix the test again. Okay, so let's move on and have another small thing, as time is also running up. Like this email communication, you may have this multiple times in your test, or you have something that you would really want to reuse in your test. And I don't want to actually write this receive and send every time I'm having a mail communication, because sometimes we also have a booking approved email and stuff like that. So we can use the concept of so-called test behaviors in Citrus. And the test behavior just uses a bunch of actions and puts it into a behavior, and then many tests can just apply this behavior, and you don't have to write this receive and send every time. So let's just use it in here. I have also prepared, instead of using this receive and send, I can just say apply behavior, and this is the verify booking completed email behavior, and it uses a booking, and it uses the mail server. And if I jump into this, now you can see this is implementing a test behavior, which is coming from Citrus. And then you have access to the test case runner, and you can use this receive and send in here, because the text of the email may not change that frequently. And then everybody or many tests can actually just use this behavior and apply it at a certain point in the test logic. So this is a good thing to do, to actually modularize your testing steps, write your behaviors, and then use the behaviors on multiple places. And it's a good improvement. So next thing I want to do is approve the booking, because I had another thing implemented. If the amount is greater than 200, you have to approve the booking before it gets processed. So let's use 250 in here, and this will trigger then the approval, the manual approval. And this is an additional step that people need to actually do. And this is then, of course, after the supply is done, then I can just verify that the approval is required. So I add another step of approve the booking, and I give the booking, and then I just copy it from where I've prepared this. It's let me see, here I have it. First thing I do is I use another thing to verify the booking status. It should be approval required, and I'm using an apply a behavior in there. So let's create this, and this is the status. And now I need a data source, because I'm verifying the booking source, the booking status in the database, like in the Postgres database. I want to check that in the Postgres database, the booking status is approval required. So I need a data source, And the good thing is, same as the object mapper, I can also inject the data source. And it's a normal data source. And this should be injecting the data source that is used by the test containers that is started by Quarkus Dev Services. So the connection settings and everything for the test containers, which is listening on a random port, it's all go into this injected data source. And I can use this data source then in my behavior to actually use another thing by Citrus is to actually look into the database and verify the result set. So I'm having this select status from booking, and I'm using the booking ID, and I'm validating the status approval required. And now for this, I need the booking ID, and the booking ID is generated by the first Quarkus call that creates the booking. And for this to actually happen, I need to change a bit in the way that I create the booking, because when I create the booking with Kafka, I'm just sending a fire and forget, and I don't have easy access to the booking ID that is created. So now I'm not using Kafka to create the booking, I'm using the HTTP service, because the HTTP service gives me back the generated booking ID. So let's change this to HTTP. And Max, you told me you tell me when I'm over time, or if I need to stop, because this is quite an important step to also use different APIs and different things. Yeah. So right now I'm not using Kafka to create the booking. I'm using the Citrus HTTP client, and this is where you maybe also use other tooling of your favorite HTTP to call this /API bookings. It's a normal post request that is fired. It uses also the JSON to create the booking as a post request. And the advantage here in the response, I'm validating the response. It is HTTP status created, and I'm also able to extract like the ID from the JSON that is giving me back, and I can create this as a variable which is called booking ID. And later on, when having a look into the database, I can just use this booking ID to check the status of the booking. So I hope this makes sense. I need an HTTP client for this. This is the Food Market API client. I just load this from the central configuration with the Citrus endpoint. So this is an HTTP client that is able to send out this stuff. So this is happy. I'm creating this booking event, and then let's maybe also have a look. I need to approve the booking, and for approving the booking, I'm also using the API, the HTTP API. So let me also just go over here, copy that for approving the booking.
We have a comment / question here, though, I think, from Tim Boy. Says because he was referring to the mail stuff we talked about before, like, and I think it's related to this too. Is like he thinks running all in one JVM is not the normal use case. He used Citrus to test application very production oriented. Have runs isolated in Kubernetes. External mailing server is required. And yeah, that's why I'm getting like it feels like Citrus is more of a, let's say, orchestration of testing with a nice DSL. Whereas what I was looking, I'm not, which I think is fine. Well, the mail pit and stuff is just this ability to be able to run and try out testing without having to set up a whole isolated environment. But it feels like Citrus can be used for both, right? You can do the full scale thing, but you can also do this local stuff.
Yeah, I wanted to actually leverage the dev services, so that this is what I'm using here. I'm starting the dev services, which starts local test containers and all that stuff. And I wanted to leverage this for the demo. But yeah, right. You can also do this completely separate. You can also let your CI/CD environment provision a Quarkus application in an environment where Postgres is running and Kafka is running, and then you just start your Citrus tests.
Yeah. Well, I like that angle of you can do basically, you have a nice type save API or to try things with. And if you want to do a full-blown thing, it's basically the same API, but you can scale it up.
Yeah, it's a really nice story because you can sort of choose what level on the test pyramid you are, but you don't need to learn a completely new programming model each time you step up a level in the test pyramid.
So you haven't, I don't think you've shown it, but I'm assuming Citrus Test doesn't cover everything enabled by default, like a mail server, WebSocket, Kafka. What controls which ones are present?
Yeah, that's a good question. So just for you, I run the test with the approval. So now we have this greater than 200. We need an approval. We check in the database that approval is required. We approve the booking over the REST API using this API call. And then we usually do the eventing verification and the mail verification. So back to your question, of course, this is all done in the POM. Yeah, like we have, I have used the Citrus POM, and now I'm able in the test scope. This is all the Quarkus stuff that I need to implement this. And here in the test scope, I'm using JUnit 5 Quarkus, and here it starts with the Citrus stuff. So this is the Quarkus extension that enables me to hook into that Quarkus testing lifecycle. Then we have HTTP for the HTTP client that I'm using right now. We have Kafka for the Kafka endpoint, mail, because I'm using the mail stuff. So it's quite modular. You can add your Citrus components as you need them in order to do your testing. And you can just put them in as separate dependencies when you need them. So this is the SQL for sending out or verifying queries on the database. And I'm also having some Selenium stuff. So this is the last one that I wanted to show you. And yeah, so let's maybe jump right into it, because you can also do UI testing with Citrus. So this booking approval is done over the HTTP call, but it's also doable over the UI. So if we take the time and just once more start this in the dev mode so I can show you the UI. And it's pretty fast, so it should be there in a few seconds. And let's once again have this, if I have a booking, this time pineapple, and it's greater equal 200, then you see that this one is in the status approve. And in the UI, somebody who's have the permissions has to click this button in order to approve the booking. And we can do this also in a UI test. So this click, what I've done right now, can also be done with a complete UI test where the browser starts up and you just use this Selenium UI testing. So let's do this. And for the simplicity, let's inject here as a Citrus endpoint a Selenium browser. Or let's call it browser, I guess. And when I come to the step of approving a booking, I'm not using the HTTP endpoint anymore, but I'm using the, where do I have it? I knew that I end up copy pasting everything because I'm too slow in writing this. So here we go. Approve booking. Here's the Selenium stuff. So let me just remove that. And these are the steps that you need to do in order to do this with the UI testing. So I use Selenium, I use the browser, I start the browser, I do a finally action to actually stop the browser. You can do this with your JUnit hooks also after test and so on. But I'm doing this do finally in here because Citrus is also able to do this. And I'm stopping the browser after the test. And then I'm navigating to the UI, delaying 3 seconds so that we actually can see something happening. And then I click on this link that I just showed you, the approve click, and it's using also the booking ID. So this is the element that I want to click. Very, very simple. And in the configuration, I do this right away because we are really running out of time. I'm using here in the Selenium browser. Let me use Firefox so that we actually can see something happening. And hopefully now it uses the same thing. It sends out this HTTP and Kafka things and so on, and it triggers the approval step. And then it opens the browser and should just hit this approve button like it's doing. And after the test, the browser should be stopping again. So now it verifies the email and so on. So it doesn't really be necessary for you to mix everything and to have this full-blown test, but it shows you that Citrus is so many different things that you can do, and it provides these domain-specific languages. And if we still have time, I can also show you some brand new stuff that is available in the next version of Citrus, and this is OpenAPI, because right now I was using the HTTP stuff. Where's my test? And I can also leverage the OpenAPI specification because the Quarkus application that I've written, it exposes the OpenAPI spec. So I can also say like the OpenAPI specification for this is the food market spec. And I want to have this OpenAPI specification loaded from the HTTP localhost /q/OpenAPI. This is where the OpenAPI specification is exposed. And I can load this specification. And instead of using the HTTP client per se, I can use the or leverage the OpenAPI specification in here. So for instance, and I have to check if I'm doing everything okay. For instance, when I create this booking with the REST API, instead of using this HTTP, I can say OpenAPI. And I need to give a specification. This is the food market spec that I'm loading. And then I just give the operation ID, like at booking. And I can just remove all of that because this is now leveraged by the OpenAPI specification. So the OpenAPI specification says this is the resource /API bookings, and you should send a JSON request because this is what is expected from the server and so on. And everything is now leveraged from the OpenAPI specification. The only thing that I do is I give the booking content. You could also generate this from the OpenAPI specification, but then you have to do a little bit more advanced things with your test data, because we need a product that actually is in the database. And when the client is creating the product and it is not in the database, then you run into problems. But it's also possible to completely generate the whole request from the OpenAPI specification. Right now, I'm just using the specification to have the resource and everything. And on the response side, the same. So I can also leverage the specification. And now I say receive at booking, and I give the HTTP status created that I want to leverage, and everything stays the same. So this is coming in the next version of Citrus. It's brand new. And the next version is 4.1. And we try to actually leverage the things from OpenAPI specification, not only on the client side, but also on the server side. So a lot of things will be done in this direction. And this is I think my last time. Oh, I'm having a compile error. Why? I forgot the semicolon. And if I didn't screw up, this should now use the OpenAPI specification to resolve this booking stuff. And sorry for running a bit over time. Now you see the browser once more. And I hope I gave you an overview of what is actually possible with this framework.
We had a question.
Yeah.
We wanted to learn more about YAX used with Quarkus. YAX is this community orchestrated Citrus, I think. But
yes.
Can you give a quick overview of that, or?
Yeah, I can do. You just open this so that you have an idea of how this actually looks like. So instead of writing a Java class and creating this booking and so on, the idea of YAX and Cucumber is to have another set on top of it, and to use this feature files. So you write this .feature files, and you use the syntax of given when then to actually describe what your test is doing. And here you have also the OpenAPI specification, and for invoking such an operation, I say when I invoke the operation at booking, then I verify the operation result 201 created. And this is the test that you write. And in the background, if I jump into this, you can see this is another example. So let me just maybe use an HTTP based, like in here. If we jump into this send post request, then you will see that at the very end, this is Citrus being used to send out the HTTP request. So there's a lot of layers put on top of Citrus, so that you as a tester just need to write this file and you're finished.
So that's normal standard Cucumber features, or?
Yes, that's normal standard Cucumber features. Cucumber is there to translate this given steps into executable Java code that you prepared as steps, and this is what YAX is doing. It prepares a lot of steps that are ready to use for you to send out data over HTTP, to connect to a Kafka, to connect to the database and stuff like that. So everything that Citrus is doing, it adds more layers on top of it for you to not write the Java code anymore, but use this kind of way of testing.
Is that limited to YAX, the community stuff, or is this, you can do this, I guess, locally too, or is that?
Yeah, you can also use this locally. And the execution of the test is at the very end, it's a normal JUnit test, because also Cucumber is based on a JUnit, so it's the runtime is basically the same. And with the Cucumber Quarkus extension, you are able to also then have the connection to the dev services. Like the Cucumber Quarkus extension uses these feature files and executes it as part of the Quarkus test lifecycle. So then,
and I know you said you said everyone. Well, nice thing with this is Citrus can be used anywhere to anyone, but I feel like you've been showing more and more of Citrus basically covers all black box testing I can think of right now. What does it? Is that's basically what it does? That's literally everything that can be communicated with some kind of messaging, whether that is email, HTTP, WebSockets, Kafka.
Yeah,
you can black box test with this in both not only via the Java API, but also with this Cucumber driven way. Is there anything you would not use Citrus tests for?
For me personally, no.
No, but of course, right?
Yeah, but as you said, a lot of, if it comes to messaging, if your application exposes an API over some kind of messaging, or it uses a messaging transport to get data from somewhere else, and this can also be an AWS service or something like that, then you most likely will have a Citrus component that helps you to actually run this in a testing environment where you just not connect to AWS, but you connect to a local service and get the response back. Because that's what Citrus is doing for everything what messaging is. And if it's not in Citrus, then it's in Camel. So you can use the Camel component to actually do the transport connectivity. And then Citrus is there for verifying the JSON, the XML, and whatnot, what you are exchanging over the wire.
But it feels extremely powerful, and I'm still I said last time, I'm still surprised. Very few people doesn't seem, well, in my bubble, very few people have heard about it. So,
yeah, it's true what you say, because yeah, I'm personally not very good at marketing, obviously. So yeah, it's a great tool, and it's mature because it's there like 2009, I think we began to as an open source framework, and it adapted to many things over time. And also, what I didn't mention here, and maybe this is another session, is to run all this stuff on Kubernetes, because then you put your local test and you run this on Kubernetes, and then there's a YAX operator that takes care of setting up the environment, the JVMs and so on, and to run this test as part of Kubernetes. And the advantage there is that you can leverage the Kubernetes service discovery, and that the mail server that I was starting here locally, it can also be exposed as a Kubernetes service, so that your application that is running in Kubernetes connects to the mail server over the Kubernetes service. Yeah. So
extremely powerful, and yeah, because just quickly when you showed me this, because I've played with the framework called Karate, where they are similar, but much more narrow than this, and they don't do, let's say, proper B2D. It's their own version of it.
Yeah, they started also to have on top of Cucumber everything.
Yeah.
But then they decided to move away from Cucumber and do a known way of behavior-driven development testing, and can come up with very powerful syntax and so on.
Yeah.
So yeah.
No, but the thing I like here is that this, you have not only you have a, let's say, a clean B2D integration, but you also have a Java decent, well, you can do anything in it, right? Which have abstractions and composability and that kind of thing. So yeah, no, I definitely like it.
Yeah, so there's a blog post that I wrote like in December. If you want to have a look, it kind of describes also the demo that I showed you today in the light version. And if you want to have a look, here's the GitHub of the demo, where you can just run it on your local host, because it's only using the Quarkus application. It uses test containers, and then Citrus, and then every communication is locally. So actually, you should be able to run the tests also locally.
Cool.
We've got one last question as well about whether Citrus can be used to test AMQP and MQTT messages.
Yeah, it can be. I think you go over the Camel component that I've mentioned, because Camel having a good coverage of this MQTT and so on. So you just use your Camel abstraction to combine Citrus with Camel and to send out the data and receive the data, and then should be possible.
Do you have a way for testing CLIs that has a standard input output? Because that's what I use Karate for, is I actually testing, and I'm realizing Camel or Citrus should be able to do the same thing. Basically just treat input output. Yeah. So
I recall there's an SSH component that enables you to actually connect, and also like you would do like connecting to a foreign terminal and a foreign server. And I think this should also be able, but I rarely have a look into this kind of stuff, but it's there.
Yeah.
And you can have a look, and it's client and server, so you can also
Okay. What was it called, that component?
is let me.
I can look it up.
Yeah. Let me just, 1 sec.
Because literally, I just want to be able to run this command and then test the input and output of that. So yeah.
Yeah, it's called it's the SSH component, and
Okay.
it uses this protocol to actually, it should be using the SSHD, and also is used for SCP and SFTP and stuff like that.
Okay, cool. So awesome. But that's great. I think we run out of questions. We also went over time.
Yeah, sorry for that.
No problem. But no, anything last minute from you, Holly?
No, super interesting. Thank you.
That's awesome. So cool. Thank you, Christoph. And yeah, we'll see you next week, I think. Oh, not you next week, but the listeners next week. And go for that. Thank you.
Thanks.
Welcome
See you
to
all.
2024.